life and confidence coach Dianna Leeder, and this is my podcast, the Crave More Life Roadshow. It's here we talk about emotional hits and lovingly kicking our own asses to get through them. Just so you know, it always comes down to being your beautiful, sassy self, living and loving from you, no matter what. So join me to hear about the healing journeys of other women, and you just might become a DIY ass kicker too. Hey listeners, welcome back. You're listening to the next interview of the Men of the Men's book series with contributing author Dan Gorbunow. Look for Dan's full bio in the show notes. Hey listeners, did you ever consider that you can create your own image of father? If you're curious, you're gonna wanna read my next guest chapter in Find Your Voice, Save Your Life 4, Transcendent Men, Real Stories. I'm Dianna Leeder. I'm host of this Roadshow podcast. I'm an intuitive life coach and confidence coach, and I help people get what they want when they find their voice. So I'm very, very happy to be here, and I'm very happy to introduce my guest host, my partner in this book, Find Your Voice, Save Your Life 4. And Mr. Scott Holmes is sitting here beside me. He made the trek all the way to Canada to visit myself and my hubby. And we've had a great time watching baseball and talking and getting to know each other. And yeah, it's just been awesome. So Dan, I'm very happy to say that Scott's here to interview as well. So we're pretty pleased.
It's great to have both of you. I feel like I'm getting double blessed today. So
awesome. So listeners, our guest today is Dan Gorbunow. Dan is a certified soul care coach, healer, educator, and public speaker. Decades of professional practice in health and teaching, along with studies in spirituality, religion, indigenous ceremonies and ways of life, martial arts, and energy practices have helped shape Dan's life and mission. So welcome to the show, Dan. We're really pleased to have you.
Oh, so good to be here, Dianna. I've been looking forward to this for a while, so it's great to be here at this point. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I've been looking forward to it for a while too. So let's just jump right in, shall we?
Sure.
I'm curious about your concept of transcendence.
You know, it's an interesting concept as a sort of a title for a book or a theme for the book on men's work. How I took it when this concept was being discussed was when I think of transcendence, you know, it's easy to go to that place of super lofty enlightenment, consciousness, just, you know, mind blowing, or spirit, you know, expanding and all that. But when I think about men's work and how I think about what that means to me and the work I do with guys is it's really about finding out who you are underneath all the stuff that's not you and overcoming those obstacles and to transcend your difficulties so that you can arrive in a zone of self that's authentic and clear and powerful and full of energy and soul and that kind of thinking. So there's a spiritual concept there, but it's more about not about going out, but going in and finding those access points so that you can be fully present in your life.
That's amazingly said. You the reason we threw transcendent in there was because it means so many different things to so many different people.
Yeah.
And how we define it, how we see it in our lives, and how we see it in how we help others. That yes, you think transcendent, you think, you know, Buddha and religious, you know, icons and spirit guides. But we all do that. Everybody in this book, I think you know, on the calls you've been on, the work that they've done and how they've elevated themselves, how they've done all of that work to kind of transcend what they went through and elevate themselves to a point of being present, which is really an art form, right? You have to go through all of it.
Exactly. And I think it's part of the work of writing, you know, and what brings us all here as we have to transcend our own doubts, our own are all of the buttons that we can, in triggers that we have, that, yeah, I'm not good enough, I don't know enough yet, someday, if, maybe, all the shoulds and shouldn'ts, and just this process of being with you and the other men, and with Dianna and Laura as well, from that side of it. It's really about getting the encouragement to let that voice be spoken and let that truth come out. And so the transcending of your own fear, I guess, that happens here, which is great. It's been a really powerful journey for me. I'm really grateful.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
It really is.
yeah, thanks. I love that. And you know, I want to throw into that conversation too, the whole concept of finding your voice, you know, and using your voice, because when you go through the process that you just described, that's what you're able to do. You know, it's, your voice just becomes that much freer. You know, you're not held back. You're able to be exactly who it is you choose to be. So yeah.
And you can't do that by yourself. That's one of the shadows that we have as men, right? Like, I got to figure it all out. If I don't, then I'm not perfect. There's something wrong with me. And we have these nagging self-doubts, and we end up isolated a lot. I end up isolated. And when I isolate and get caught in my own bubble and shadow, it's hard for me to be productive. It's hard for me to relate clearly to others. And I just like that, you know, in the course of doing this, you have to take that on, and you have to be willing to see the voice that I'm communicating with, whether it's through my voice or through the writing, that's all sharing from self. And I have to trust that. That's a big step for a lot of us, to trust that.
Part of understanding where the voice is coming from,
whether
it's from here or from here.
Right. Yeah, I sometimes will say to the men, you know, the longest journey that a man can take is from here to here.
Always, always, always. I use that line. I tell people, for me, it was 1,000,000 miles that I traveled from here.
Light years.
Yep.
I love that, because you're right. It's not a fast journey. There's no quick fix to any of that.
And that's the interesting word, the idea of quick fix. It brings up two issues right away. One is, a lot of the work I do is with men in recovery, and these are guys who, you know, are struggling with addiction. They're trying to get past their impulsivity and other issues that may be going on, and that is that quick fix mentality. Is, if I can just find a quick solution to alleviate the tension or the pain, then that's the one I'll probably go for. And that's where we get into that default habit, that negative pattern, right? Because often that's not the right one. You know, you talk about healing and growth and soul work and changes, it usually asks for a different kind of response, not the quick one. And the other thing right away that comes up is, you know, the idea of men as being fixers. You know, it reminds me of the old, you know, of the rap song, is, if there's a problem, yo, I'll fix it. Right. And that's what we do as men. We are given a problem or a challenge, and the first thing we do is try to fix it, try to solve the problem. And there's something great about that's sort of innate in men, that we want to just quickly, expediently solve problems. And I'm thinking of my German ancestors here, and, you know, Slavic ancestors, where it's very much about, don't dwell on things. Life can be hard and throw horrible things at you, and for all you got to do is just figure out what the solution is, and then just do it and move on, and don't cry about it. Just to solve it. And yet, what happens with that is, it doesn't leave room for feeling, especially the feelings of others. And it shows up in how I relate to my own feelings and how I respond to those around me, and it can keep us stuck, I think.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. If you are stuck in what it is you think that you need to be doing, you're not paying attention to either what your heart, you know, is suggesting to you, or even to, and I say this in a positive way, but to manipulate what it is you need as you are problem solving. I mean, we all have to problem solve, but that's not the only piece of it.
Yeah.
Great. So I'm wondering about the men's health in general. So, you've talked about a little bit about men's health, but men as a gender, why is it so important to you to be working on men's health?
Thank you. That's a really great question. I guess it comes out of my own process and my own journey. I, for years in my life, carried a negative projection about men, and I didn't know I had it. It came out of the fact that my own father was not very emotionally present in my life. And on one hand, I'm really grateful that he was not a monster. He was not abusive. He was sort of a quiet addict. His main crime was he was just not present. But I have no other really complaints about him other than I wish I would have got more of him, right? And that sort of left that part of me like that. And that I have a tendency to hide, in self, in addiction, in isolation, those other things we're talking about. And in the course of my own journey, realizing that, well, there's this whole language around men's healing that's particular to men that I need to understand if I'm going to heal, because the stuff that's sort of on the market and available is too general. And I mean, you can learn about your diet, for example. You can learn about psychology and different things you got to do. It's just, there's things particular to how men heal their emotions and their soul and their minds that you have to figure out. It's like some of the things we're talking about. I mean, I'm very good as a man at suppressing and dividing my emotional life for the rest of my life and things like that. So that's a particular skill set that I have to learn to unpack. And so just thinking about that. And the other thing is seeing that over time that there's a lot of negative projections about men. And those are some of the things that men have quietly metabolized in them ever since they're a child. It's part of the reason why we can be implosive rather than expressive, is that, we're taught from a very young age, and there's a lot of studies about this, and I can kind of reflect on the works of Warren Farrell, who I've had a chance to work with, The Boy Crisis, and Women Can't Hear What Men Don't Say, and other titles like that. It really shows that we have sort of encultured in guys a repressive system. And there's reasons for that. That's not just really cultural, it's almost more biological. And but how it plays out is, a lot of men suffering quietly. And what needs to happen, or the opposite of that is when it gets to a certain point, then men can explode diagonally and cross purposes to everything around them, and self-destructively and even violently. So there's a link then between what men are taught to do with their thoughts, feelings, energies, and their interior life, and then what society, has held as acceptable for men, and those projections that are reinforced through media and just social reality, and then what a man has to do to overcome that. That's kind of the nature of men's work. It's just going against conditioning to find out how to access his own life. And following along some of my early inspirations, like I said, Warren Farrell, but before him, I was really inspired by Robert Bly, who I consider just the awesome pioneer of men's interior life, dealing with the psychology and the sociological implications of men's interior health. And just following on his footsteps, he takes us through the tracks of old myth and story and Sufism and ecstatic expression and gathering by fire and drum. And these are the kind of things that excite me, because I don't want to just think of myself as a project that has to be, solved, but as a being that wants to experience life. And the way that men do that, there may be some general principles that we can all follow and benefit from, but men just have kind of their own way of healing. And I found a lot of satisfaction in, but figuring that out for me and going, aha, I bet a lot of other guys have similar needs, and to find that, it's not easy for a guy to find that. And I did find it, though. I found it through communities like the Twin Cities Men's Center. Here, it's one of the only men's communities we have in the country left. The Mankind Project, you may have heard about them, and they do, like, I would call emotional boot camp in the new warrior training adventure. And so through the alliances of men's healing communities, have found my own path to actualize all my interior life, my spirituality, my my psychology, how I deal with relationships. Everything has flowed out of that. That being said, I did also have a steep immersion in my life going back many years in indigenous ceremony. And that's a whole nother thing, because it's not really male specific per se, although there are aspects of traditional cultural life that are dedicated more, men follow this path spiritually, women do this path, and they're similar, but they're different. And there's also the two-spirited or the mixed gender. So there's like 3 genders in traditional societies, and understanding then those things can help us to work together. I said a lot, so I'll just shut up for a second and see what else comes out of that.
Well, this is an interview, so you're supposed to say a lot.
Okay, good.
Okay. Scott, anything you want to jump in with?
Yeah, just how do you incorporate the indigenous ceremonies into that kind of the healing process is really what I was interested in.
Well, it really is the basis for my work, and my joy. Always do what you love, and always practice your healing work, and then you're always doing both, right? You should never make healing or work that you have to do uninteresting and unsatisfying, and so it's very satisfying to do ceremony and to lead in it. I guess it's a pretty steep question. So how I incorporate it is, initially when I'm working with clients or with men in treatment centers, which is my main venue right now, different sort of community programs where I'm with guys or one-on-one. Everyone there has a different brand of spiritual interest. Some may be very religious, some not. Some may be very interested in metaphysics. So my overall approach is to really honor where each person is at. So whatever's sacred to you is welcome. And when I start off by saying that in the beginning of the connection, for one thing, it's granting us permission to be exactly who we are. There's no competition here. Each of us has our own path to take. Yet at the same time, I want you to be on your path. I'm sort of bringing people back to this idea that there is a spiritual path to be on, that there is a care for your spirit and your soul that's important. And so just sort of signaling that this is the nature of our connection and conversation, then it sort of brings that part of you, of men into that orientation. And what's interesting about that is a lot of guys are really hungry for that. And especially when the focus has been on, in the treatment industry, for example, it's a lot of biopsychosocial stuff. It's cognitive behavioral stuff. It's stinking thoughts and changing your peers and changing your lifestyle and getting your basic needs figured out and legal and court issues. And there's very little room in all that for the rich interior life that men may be holding on to. And that may be a critical mistake, I would suggest, because rather than starting with all those external factors, I like to start with right where the guy's at a deep part of himself, and let that heart, let that spirit have a voice in our process. So just that invitation itself just takes the vibration up a whole another level. And then men can start to support each other in that, or it's one-on-one to kind of framing into that kind of connection. And then just after that, it's just, spirit takes us for a ride, and whatever comes up, comes up. That being said, I have a lot of experience in ceremony and following the processes of opening, conducting deep work, pulling out the important parts of that need to be clarified or purified, and then finding, process, and completion. So just following the great laws of spiritual law and creative law. And so I think of every gathering as a ceremony. You know, I think every time I gather in a circle is a ceremony. And when we're specifically lighting a fire and putting tobacco down or putting ash down, then it really invokes the sacred into the context of whatever else is going to be said or shared. And it doesn't have to be very religious. You know, it could just be that we're dedicating something and we're inviting that other side of us into the mix. It can be that simple.
Do you find that the work is more intense individually or in a group?
They're different, right? Intensity, I think there's an intensity of depth which one-on-one coaching can reach that nothing else can reach, because that's where we're really going into deep listening, right? And I can only listen as an advisor or as that support. I can't listen to everybody equally. I can't have that conversation. So when it's one-on-one, it's clear and deep. However, that being said, there's something quite powerful about a group energy that can take sometimes that can lead a man to a place that he might not otherwise go to, because he's seeing in the eyes and the voices and the changes in another man something that he wants for himself. And then he goes, yeah, I wasn't thinking about doing this, but that guy looks really happy right now. He looks like a load is taken off his shoulders, and I want that. And that often happens in the course of healing work, where like in group process, where a guy's been on the fence for a while. I'm only going to see him for a few weeks because he's in and out of treatment. And he'll come to me like the last time I'm going to see him. And he'll say, you know, that thing that you do where the guys stand up and we do this thing, I want to do that. And I know that that guy has recognized in himself something that he must do before he leaves. And it may be his only chance to do it, because he's been in and out of treatment. He has not had that kind of, you know, process, and he's hungry for it, and he's inspired by other guys. So yeah, both are good. I'd say yes and both.
I agree. I don't. It's difficult to separate the two because they both offer different pieces, and they're both amazing. Yeah.
They work really well together. Like, I think being in an emotionally competent environment where the group frame is going into deep place, and then a man says, you know, well, I'm leaving here, but now that I'm leaving this group, I'd like to work more closely with you, and you know, I've got stuff that I'd like to go further with, and that's great.
Yeah, awesome. So tell us what your hopes are for this book. You know, I mean, I'm hearing snippets that, you know, men are eager and they're ready, and you know, and I love how you describe the interior, you know, men's interior. Yeah. So what do you know, you've written a chapter for us, and it's amazing. So everybody is listening, get the book, because it's amazing. It's all amazing. So yeah, what are your hopes for it?
Sure. Well, you know, I went into this thinking, well, I'm going to write a chapter because I've always wanted to write and publish. And along the way, I realized that I really love writing. And I guess I've known that. I've been encouraged by my wife and others to write in the course of my life. But I never, I guess I always thought it was something I will do one day. Well, the one day has arrived. And you gave me a chance to start the process. So for one thing, I'm really super grateful, because it has helped me to clarify a lot of the things that I want to offer in more in depth. So I've been doing, you know, sort of coaching and group work on the side, and it's been a sort of a side job, but now it's really come to the forefront. It's really how I want to shift and focus. So I think, you know, just kudos for what you've offered here, because it's allowed me the chance to pivot in my vocation and focus what I want to offer. And the other thing that happened, even as I was finishing up the last edits, is I had an opportunity to get involved in another project. And I decided I was going to write at least one book this year. And I'm well into that. So that is really awesome. And I have the confidence to do that now. And I also have just clarity around what it, you know, how it's going to serve me. and serve my clients and my mission. So I can say that for chapter 4, Healing the Father Archetype, in the Find Your Voices book, it has helped me to focus that particular part of my work. And as a result of that, created a course, Healing the Father Archetype. And I'm almost done with that course now. I've got a little bit more video work to do on that and some bonuses that are going to be part of that course, but that's going to be offered at the Transformation School as part of Brave Healer Publishing. I believe it's part of Brave Healer Publishing. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that course should be ready, hopefully, in the next couple weeks. Yeah.
Excellent. Congratulations.
So there's that. And then so I realized, as soon as you go down that path, well, if I create one course, I create more. And what other things do I want to, do? And so I created 7 courses, or at least an outline of 7. And I'm working on different stages of those. And that's all going to, be going to my website. And out of those 7 courses is actually all the content and design of my book. So it all works together, just seeing that the book and the chapter can bring people into the coursework, and that can help people to find me and hire me as your coach, or possibly to, look at the other offerings there and see what makes sense. And it's just galvanized all my ideas for how I want to, serve the men, serve the community. It's been great.
Awesome. Good. Well, I'm really happy that, and I'm sure Scott is too, that the process has been that supportive for you. And that it really, what you're saying is that it's opened up your work, and all that does is support so many other men. So.
And I was ready for it, I think this kind of project makes a lot of sense if a man or a woman and anybody has ideas and content and solid offering. If you really know that what you have is valuable and what you have to say has value, then I think you can see it as a way to help transition you towards another way of presenting that. And then the other side of it is writing or art or any expression can be satisfying just for its own healing purposes. And I get there's that part of it. So really for me, it's both. It's personally satisfying, and it's also professionally uplifting.
I've noticed that, if I may, just an observation is, when we first spoke, you projected it in a certain way. When you speak now, and I know you said you had been taking a course on speaking and presenting, you are just full. You're presenting in full. You're giving all of you to what you're doing. You're inspired. You have that spark, and that's what's going to bring people to you. Yeah, exactly. That's what's going to bring people to you. And by the way, I have to editor's note, enjoyed your writing tremendously. I remember the first selection you gave us. Wow. And I'm thinking to myself, how's he going to get this down to 2,500 words,
Right.
And you did a marvelous job of that. And while keeping the understanding, the meaning in it, and what you wanted to present, amazingly so. And I just wanted to say that because, and I wanted to let people know that if they're open, it will touch them. It's deep. It's there's a depth. There's dark. There's light. There's everything in between to it, and that's a gift you have. I'm glad you're sharing it.
Wow. Thank you. I like to get those in quotes and put that somewhere, wrap it around my work.
You got it.
There we go. Testimonials for your chapter.
We all need to get fed sometimes, a lot more than we are. There's a dearth of acknowledgement and blessing and support as we've moved into this crazy new world. I see a lot of people are just hungry for validation. They're hungry to be seen, to be heard. And yeah, you give me that. And I can't thank you enough. It's a great gift.
Sincerely, our pleasure. We get, when that relationship, that connection happens, all the energy goes both ways, and it really reinforces itself. And I think this collaboration with all of the men that have been involved, I've been blown away with the integrity. I've been blown away by how vulnerable the men are in telling their stories. It's not easy telling the good, the bad, and the ugly, and sharing it with the world, and putting yourself out there. But when you own that, nobody can use it against you anymore.
That's right. Yeah, that's a very interesting concept. I just shared that with the guys recently at Twin Town. It's a residential treatment center where I'm there every week. And one of the things that will shake the guys up when they're otherwise falling asleep, it's like, I'm in there Tuesdays, it's Taco Tuesday, and their bellies are full and they're tired and they just got to do one more darn lecture that, and then it's just, I have to pull them out, get them to really focus. And one of the things I do is to do some martial arts demonstrations, which gets them going. And because, yeah, all of a sudden they're all like, oh yeah, I want to see this. They want to see someone, do something, fall or get flipped or something. I don't do anything like that, but I will practice some principles and then talk about it and how to apply it in healing work. So I just like to take fun things and then find the connection. And so one of the concepts comes from Filipino martial arts, eskrima, which means to battle. It's one of the styles of Filipino arts, stick fighting using sword and knife. And the concept is defanging the snake. And defanging the snake very specifically is, I'll just use this. This is just a random stick I have. If someone has a stick in their hand, and the tendency is you're going to think of the stick, right? You're looking at this and you're focused on this, but you're not looking at what this hand is doing over here. So this hand could be like, look over here, and I could get you over here. So, but the other thing is this is really a deadly force, and one of the ways I can deal with this coming at me, whatever this is, again, think of psychologically, whatever that stick is that's coming at you, is this can't hurt me. Really, it's this guy back here holding it that's doing it. This is just an extension. So defanging the snake means to strike, to hit here or to cut. And then what happens is you drop the stick. And so defanging the snake is just taking the weapon out of the hand of what's threatening you, and just taking the power away. And that's different than thinking about how I'm going to hurt that person or I'm going to defend that person. No, all you need to do is neutralize that threat. So anyway, that's just a little example of, how we bring some of those things together. And it's true that we have a lot of the weapons that will hurt us are things that we're holding on to. And if we clear them up, then there goes its power, the shame, the fear, the disappointment, the loss of social power or status. Is like when you come clean and you have that reconciliation and you're honest and clear, all of a sudden, yeah, a lot of those thorns get pulled out. A lot of the stuff that's keeping you stuck gets cleared out.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. It's when you remove those, those things in the way, the real, the things that really are a defense from somebody else, because that comes up all the time. And when I think about a man who is troubled or a woman who is troubled, we don't go to that stuff, we don't do this. It's all about what's out here, so yeah. So I particularly love that for men or women.
I think of how toxic the shame, especially the toxic shame that people carry and that men carry. It's so powerful. It's enough to prevent them from taking the next step in their life. And the only remedy for that, what shame doesn't want you to do, of course, is to clean it up. It doesn't want you to tell the dirty secret. I'm not the first one to say it, but especially in healing and addiction work, we're only as sick as our secrets. So the obvious remedy is to disempower the shadow by telling your story. And once you do that, you're clear. Like your soul is clean. It doesn't mean you don't have more work to do, but at least that part of it is not getting in the way.
And writing is such an incredible way to start that process. Yeah, I love it.
I encourage my guys to journal. Get in the habit of writing, speaking it out, talking about it, art it out. I talk about that in chapter 4 about how men, take their angst to the iron, to the gym, and that's where a lot of that comes out.
Yeah, I can see that. Awesome. Well, this has been fantastic. I want to ask you if there's anything else that you want to share, anything else that you want the audience to know.
Wow, great question. I want everyone just to go forward into their life courageously and full of love and appreciation for whatever's in life right now, and to not make war with what's difficult. There's a lot of difficult things that our society is being hit with, that our planet's being hit with, and there may be very difficult things in your life that are hitting you. And my hope for each of us, for you, is that you will do everything you can to see this as growth and as opportunity, and to trust that you were given these circumstances maybe for the very reason that you have the power to do something about it, not only for you, but for the benefit of all. The Hopis have a great saying that you are the ones you've been waiting for. You are the one that you've been waiting for. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. So that must mean that we're all here for the very sacred purpose to resolve exactly the very difficult thing that's pressing in hard on you. And how wonderful that we all get to, be allies and work together to resolve that. And if I can help through my writing or my coaching or my programs, awesome. And I just hope everyone can find that niche where you transform your pain or whatever's oppressing you, or whatever's bothering you, into action, and don't sit on it, but do something positive with it and give it meaning. So maybe I'll have more meaning.
We hope to do more work with you later as we go along this journey together.
I hope so too.
Yeah, a lot of the guys have had connections all over the country, from Washington State to California to Arizona to Florida, all the way around. This has been really a very meaningful compilation and true collaboration.
True. Yes, indeed.
Yep, it's awesome, and it's coming out early August. So yeah.
Go get that book.
Go get that book. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what, I just want to throw in one last thing too. Yes, go get the book, but something that you kind of really encapsulates everything that you've been talking about today is that if somebody is needing to do this work, if they're ready to do this work, they don't have to do it alone.
Right.
You talked about so many things that that men can do to get support. You're there, and there are other practitioners from the book as well. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Great resources.
Don't have to do this alone.
I would say, every man or every woman who knows a man who could use that deeper look, want to be inspired by that. Look at the resources of the men that are present. Wow. Because there's great offerings there. There's a lot of great coaching, like myself and other guys. There's, websites and materials to look at and see it as a resource guide as well. And not just the great writing, but, be inspired and take some action.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you, Dan. Great. We really appreciate you being here and your contribution to the book. And it's going to touch people, absolutely, in a big way.
I feel it. It's touched me. It's created incredible changes in me. I know it's going to do good for others, and I'm really grateful for that. And for you guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dan. Take care.
All right. You too. Be well.
You too. If you like today's podcast, hit subscribe at the bottom on your way out and come find me at cravemorelife.com for even more DIY ass kicking.